Hey, Joe here. Back in the garage again, working on the transmission again. I'm gonna look in the valve body next. I don't know. I cleaned the valve body the first time I disassembled the transmission, and the clutch is burnt up. All that clutch material is in the valve body now, and I didn't clean it out, so it definitely needs to be cleaned out. I'm gonna be a little bit more thorough this time. Maybe there was something I missed the first time, and I'm hoping that a thorough cleaning of the valve body is gonna make this thing work right. How many times have I done this in the past few weeks? At least that fluid looks nice. Probably flushed enough through here to clean up all the garbage from those clutches. So when this drains out, I'll pull the pan, get that valve body out of here and start cleaning. I have something I want to test here. No one's asked me to do this, but I have some shop air, and I'm going to apply it. I have this gauge in the front clutch, and I'm going to apply this shop air there and see what we get on this gauge. All right, about 90 PSI. So I know I can get, close to the right amount of pressure in this port with shop air. I'm going to move this gauge to the rear clutch and do the same test. Then I'll know if the drum's holding air. I'll know the valve body is the issue at that point. Let me move this gauge. All right, we have the gauge moved over to the rear clutch port, and I'm going to apply shop air to the rear clutch port from the valve body and see what we get. Well, I don't know if that's a scientific test, but that leads me to believe there's a problem with the rear drum. Well, you know what that means. Transmission's coming out again. I'll spare you all the work part of it. You've seen it at this point. Let's just get to tearing it down and finding the problem. And there it is. Back out again. Ready to tear it up. I have the transmission opened up. I went ahead and pulled the pump out of it. That's it. I wanted to see where these ports, I was testing this port right here. This is the port that feeds to the rear drum, which is where I'm having trouble. This is the test port the gauge was in, so, when I pressurize that port shows the pressure here, right? So this, you look over here, it comes in, you got this port here. Lines up with those three ports right here. Not really sure what those are for, but this port right here lines up with this one here, and then in turn this one here. And then this one I've been testing right here, which lines up with this test port. And ultimately this, I don't know what this port is yet, and it comes to right here. So that port feeds into the pump right here. So once it feeds into the pump here, it feeds to the inside of the pump shaft, which goes on this input shaft and feeds down, way down in there. Yeah, you might be able to see that little gap on the outside of the shaft. There's one there. There's one right down there. There's three of them. And that's how the fluid gets to the rear drum. The front drum's fed by an oil hole on the outside of the pump that feeds to the inside of the drum right here. So, that would be that one. But we're worried about this one, which feeds to the inside of this pump. into the shaft. So I don't have a way to test the drum from here. I don't have a test port to test the drum from here. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe this pump that I took out of my spare transmission isn't any good. If there's something wrong in this pump, it's not going to pressurize this shaft properly and therefore not the rear drum. Or all of that's working fine, the pressure is getting down there, and there's a problem in the drum itself. That's what I have to figure out right now. In this episode of Things I've Never Done Before, I took apart this pump. And, it looks pretty good for the most part. But, there's supposed to be a little 1/4-inch steel ball in that hole right there. I had to text some buddies and tell them I was really thinking it was the pump. My good buddy Aaron Gregory came through with the suggestion to look for the ball, and it's not there. So I think I can take one out of my other bad pump. It's bad for a different reason. I'm sure it has a check ball in it. I can take it out of there, transfer it to here, and put this thing together, and I think I may be out of the woods. Crossing my fingers. This was the original pump for my transmission, but you can see where the front drum made contact with this pump. I believe it was pushed in by forcing the torque converter in because I had the wrong pilot bushing a while back. You can go back and watch that video. I thought I had that ironed out, but it seemed to have caused a problem here. So I put that pump from the other transmission in it, and it seems to be missing that steel ball. So let's hope this one has one in it. Both pumps opened up, and you can already see right in there, in that hole, that round hole, there's something that's not in this one. I assume this magnet will get that out for me. There it is. I just need to put it in the other pump, put that thing back together, and put it in the transmission, and man, I hope we're in business. Okay, so as you can see, I have the pump reassembled and installed. I've went ahead and hooked this gauge back up to the rear clutch port, and I'm going to do the same air test I did with the transmission in the car. I think if I pressurize this port right here, I should get some good noises in here, not a bunch of escaping air, and some pressure here. So let's see what I get. It sounds much better. All right. I'm getting 60 PSI there, which isn't the 90 I was getting with air on the front clutch, but it's definitely an improvement. That pump's probably pretty dry, and I would think some air could sneak around that ball that was missing and leaking all the air. I think the right thing to do is to put this thing together, put the valve body back in it, put it in the car, fill it up with fluid, and use the gauge to check the ports with the car running with fluid in it. Through the magic of YouTube, that's going to happen real quick. Just like that, all back together. I got 9 quarts of fluid in it. Got a little extra I can put in there once it's warmed up, top it off. Of course, while it's running, I'll have it up on the lift, and I'll have that gauge in there, and we'll see if we got the right pressure now. Gonna hook up the gauge to the rear clutch port right there, and start her back up. All right, gauge installed. All right, here we go. Aren't turning. Put on the brake. Reverse. Alright. Neutral. The wheels will move. Just very slowly. Now we're going to go down to first. That's first. Second. Going to third. All right, everything still seems to put the car in first gear. And now I have to get out and check the gauge. Well, unfortunately I had a leak up here and I filled this gauge with tranny fluid, but that's the right pressure. That's 120 right there. We're fixed. Man, I'm really excited to have this thing working right again. It was a whole fiasco. If you've watched the videos, you know I've been all over the place trying to figure out what's wrong with this thing. I found that really obscure problem there, and it's fixed now, and that's great. But let me take this moment to tell you, I hesitated to work on the car today by myself because I was going to have it up on the lift and in gear, and, you know, I'm just nervous about it falling down, driving through my house, you know. Who knows what can happen? When you work by yourself, you need to be careful. Turned out I had an unforeseen issue where I had a leak under there where I connected that gauge. You know, no big deal. I lost like a quarter fluid. I topped it back off. Everything's fine, but it could have been a bigger deal than that. It could have been a bigger mess to clean up, or it could have been dangerous. You know, I could have run the transmission out of fluid if that leak was really big. You know, so like, you got to be careful when you're working by yourself, man. It's always good to have a spotter or somebody with you, you know, just to throw wrenches at you and look out for stuff like that. So keep that in mind when you're working on your stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for sticking with me through all these troubles I've had. Next step is to take this thing out to the track and make sure it is working correctly and hopefully see some much improved ETs and mile per hours out of this car. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you got a minute, check out Joe Wrenches on Facebook, on Instagram, and click the notification bell here on YouTube so you'll know when these videos come out in the future. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Put cheese on it.